What is up, my friends? We are getting back into another little episode of the live stream, building out a weather app. So we want to build the fastest weather app. It's going to have no ads. It's going to be awesome. We're going to use Akamai EdgeWorkers to deploy it as close to the user as possible so that we can get the user's location without having to worry about any sort of personally identifiable information. And we're going to be using OpenWeather Maps API to get the weather data and make it nice and easy and do these sort of sub request things. So to get started, got to do the most important thing, which is figure out what music I want to listen to while we do this. How about yeah, kind of happy. Can try that. I'm feeling that. I'm gonna turn it down just a little bit. Okay, cool. That's looking good. Now let's share our screen so we can see a little bit of the code where we left off. Let's start our thing, our dev server, and then we can look at our code at localhost 3000. And here's what we got so far. So yesterday we were able to get our tables working and our temperature and stuff like that, and that's looking good. I think I'm actually going to change how this table is laid out because I don't like, well, first of all, we're building something that's intended to be kind of like an app, so it's probably going to be on a much smaller screen, and that table just is going to blow out there. So there's some tricks to do, like responsive table design stuff, but we're gonna lean on something that's just kind of easy. And instead of doing this table, oh look at that, I didn't even use the table head or the T body. That was bad. I guess not so bad, but what I want to do is actually, instead of having these headers and data cells in separate tabs, I'm going to actually pull these. Let's see. I'm going to see. No, I don't want to do that. I want to close this row, and I'm actually going to pull the temperature up so that the header and the value is like right next to each other. So are you going to tell me, yeah, you understand what I want to do? Thank you very much. So let's do the min, and let's close that. Let's do the max, and let's close that. Let's do the wind speed, and oops, a little ahead of myself. Close that. Wind direction, close that. And look, it even added the degree for me. That's great, thank you. Let's get rid of all that. How about cloud? Oh, you know what? I am teaching it how to do the wrong thing. So I need, no, let's go like this. Let's go doot, 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 doot. Oops. And after all those, we'll add our next row. And now things are looking right. Okay, so where was I? Here on the new table row, we're going to do the clouds, close that, start the next one, and after the sunrise, format date, is that, that may not be what I want, so it's adding some stuff that I didn't have, but let's see how that looks, because that might actually be kind of cool. Next row is the sunset time, and we're already closing that, and then we can see what we've got in this other row and see what's going on there. Cool. I should be ready to go. Let's reload that, and that's looking a lot better. This is more like how I would want to see my data with the temperature and like left to right. So what is that sunrise and sunset looking like? Pretty much the same to how we have it. So probably not necessary to use all of this hour, minute, 12-hour true, and we can just use time style short. So we're going to take that, copy that, and replace those two instances of it, and then we can get rid of these. Cool, 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 cool. And now I need to find another place for my icon, which is maybe going to be the description, right? So we probably want like one more row up here. TR, I don't want the date. Maybe I do want the date. That might be a good idea. No, not the temperature. Date. Do I want the date? Yeah, I think I want the date. So the date that I have, let's just leave that as is. And we'll close that, end that. Well, I actually probably don't want that there. I probably want that up here. For the city on that date. And this should actually be maybe not in the table. Oop. Not in the table, not in the table. That's fine. I'm going to pull this icon up out of my table and up into that's my H1. All right, let's go. I want a new H1. I got a lot of things going on in my head right now. So if it does exist, cool. Here's where we are. The icon is going to be there, and we're going to say, current weather is the weather description. Okay, so what have we got here? This icon. Wish there was an easy way to grab this icon description, but I guess we're just going to double that. That's fine. So let's see what this looks like. Okay, cool. From Greenberg, right? Do we still have Greenberg hard coded in there? We do. Let's get rid of that. Let's do that and just stick with Portland. And hard coding is okay right now. Cool. Current weather for Portland. And I want to change my H1. This is actually going to be like an H2, and that's going to say current weather for the city and the date, and I want an H1 here with my city. I also think it's a good idea to probably have a main. And all this stuff, indent it, close up that main, and this is looking really not so great, so do it this way. This sort of syntax. Okay, and then yeah, I'm all right with how this is looking. That's looking pretty good. Okay, cool, easy to follow. Current weather for city. Okay, H1 should not say city. H1 I want to call forecast. So I'm calling this app the forecast because it's a fast, friendly forecast, or friendly, fast forecast. Yeah. Friendly, fast forecast. Cool. Got that. Friendly, fast forecast. Current weather for Portland is broken clouds, and let's actually pull that temperature up. So I want to get rid of this whole row and pull that up. And that's my description, and we'll just put like the weather there, temperature. Okay, cool. That's looking pretty good, right? Gives me my main information right here. Let's actually do something else. Did it just auto format this into butt? I totally did. You suck, auto formatter. You failed this. You know what? Let's also fix that. Let's put in my ESLint. What is it? .ESLint. Config.js. No. RC. ESLint rc.js. Okay, cool. And then I have another project somewhere. Just make sure not showing off things that I'm not supposed to be. I have another project here. And I'm just going to copy that. And then back to our app. Cool. Our ESLint rc.js. And I think I'm just going to be explicit and call this a CJS file because we want it to be common.js. Okay. Now that's going to say, whoa. You got some issues with your linting because all of my plugins are not going to be installed. So I think once again, I'm going to open up that Wordle because that's the project that we worked on before. And let's see, package.json. This is more really annoying stuff. Pull that on my other screen so I can kind of do two things at once. Let's stop that. What do I need for dev dependencies to make ESLint happy? Let's npm install dev mode. Yeah. We'll get some JS doc in there. We'll get some prettier in there. We'll get some security in there. And we'll get some unicorn in there. So that should work. Looks like I've got a rogue console log in here somewhere in my server. Somewhere, maybe. There you go. Logging the weather. We don't need to do that anymore. Okay, cool. Everything's installed. Let's go back, and if we open up our server again, and I'm not going to get any red squigglies. Everything's looking good. Are you really? Yeah, I should see some red squigglies. Yes. Getting code actions for ESLint. Okay. Just wait for that. Usually kind of slow the first time around. Give it a minute. Had a little rough day. It's got a lot to think about. There you go. Look at that. All of these errors. Oof, that's wrong. I bet it's wrong over here too. Yeah, there you go. Let's save that and close that. And then, yeah, it's complaining about a lot of stuff. So if I hit save, most of these things should be auto fixable. Now it's still complaining over here about a couple things. I think, this is one of those annoying things where prettier is complaining, but ESLint is also complaining. I hate when that happens. We're just gonna leave it. It's fine. Okay, so what I want to actually work on today is getting this project to work within Akamai EdgeWorkers. So let's do this. I'm going to create a folder called source. And the source folder is actually not even going to have the server in it. It's going to have the edge function, the EdgeWorker code. So a little main.js file, yeah, that's going to go there. And then the server is going to stay in the root because that's like a tool that I'm going to be using. It's like a utility, not part of the source code that's actually going to be deployed. So let's see. This code is, so in our EdgeWorker, what we need is a function that exports certain things. So let's look at Akamai EdgeWorkers. See if we can get some. No, that's still not the one that I want. I want the tech docs, please. Thank you. Okay, so some of the things that we need for our EdgeWorkers is how do we do like how do we actually build one? So create a code bundle. Yeah, we need a main.js and a bundle.js. Okay, I get that. Event handler functions. This is what I want. So essentially, there's going to be different events that run when a request is made. So here we can see the client goes to the cloud, which may or may not go to the origin server, which responds to the cloud, may or may not respond to the cloud, and then goes back to the client. Or this, I guess this is the traditional way of doing things. And with EdgeWorkers, we have a few different lifecycle events that we can actually key into. So we can key into when a client request is made, or we can kind of generate a custom response. So we are actually going to be doing the second one there, which is using this response provider. So the way we do that is we create a function, export function response provider, that gives us a request object, and then it needs to do something. So let's say for the time being, it returns, what was that? Return, I want to see, return new promise, resolve reject. Whoa, it's doing a whole bunch of stuff. URL is getting pulled from the request. Hostname, pathname is from the URL, and then it's doing a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not really sure, in fact, what it's doing. So let's just for now return hello world. And so something that I want, like the way I want to make this work is that my server over here should be playing the role of Akamai EdgeWorkers underlying runtime, right? So it should handle all of the work. And my request here should, or my file here should basically just be used by, automatically used by that server, if that makes sense. So, whoops. So, what do I, oops, no, don't exit that. I need to do something really quick. Okay, cool. Just making sure all of my secrets are in place and being good. Okay, so what have we got? Right, so let's see, in our server, we basically need to take all of this logic and kind of re-implement it or move it to our main.js file, which is going to be the body of the or the logic part. But I need this server to kind of work the same way as my EdgeWorkers. So how do we do that? Well, first we're just going to assume like that main.js file has to be there, right? So let's import everything that's exported as the Akamai worker from /source /main.js. Okay. You're complaining. Why are you complaining? Find module. Yeah, okay, you found it. You figured it out. Okay, cool. So if we come here and let's say we're up here, right? So we're gonna say we've got our app, and then down here in the body of our app, we're actually gonna replace this stuff. We're going to say if the worker.response provider is defined, then we're going to handle it. We're going to sort of pass the request information to, yeah, sure. We're going to say result equals await worker.response provider. Pass that request there, right? Because response provider only receives a request object. So by calling it here and giving it the request that we receive from the server, then we can actually execute it. And it's looking like it needs to be an async function. Let's just leave it as not an async function right now. And then the response would end with that. So let's like return early if that's the case. Okay. And that should be what we get back. So if I go here, I should now expect to see hello world, which I do. So what's happening there is we're saying, hey, let's build like a local dev server that behaves like an edge worker so that we can write code that looks like an edge worker that we can then deploy to the edge worker and have it work the same. Okay, so let's say that now that we have that working, we can kind of take this logic out of here because it's not needed in here. That's actually going to come up here. And then we need that function, get weather from city, to come up here, right? And now this open weather maps response is going to be up here, which I don't think is being used anywhere else. So that's safe to just kind of cut out of there. And we can, basically we're doing a lot of copying code, the business logic code into the business logic file and leaving the server code in the server file area. Why are you... okay, you're not defined. That's easy to fix. Go down to our defined things. No undefined types. Cool. That is now defined. I think. Oh no, that's not defined. It's not a type. That is no undef. Oh, that's not even the right spot. ESLint, no undef. Maybe let's see. Oh, this is more of the annoying stuff. Okay, no debugger, no console. I like to put these in alphabetical order. So no undef is going to be an array where it's an error. But how do I say? I guess I need to look at this. Click on that. That's going to open up over here. Urchin 4-2U head explodes. Don't quite understand this next, but enjoy watching. Hey, I'm glad. You know what? This is a show about just hanging out. Like, if you have questions, throw them out there. I'm just having fun building things on my own until people come to hang out. What do you got? What do you got questions about? Or you want me to just keep going? You want me to explain what's going on? I'm building, well, this is not super impressive. I'm building well, I'm in the middle of breaking what I was building. So let's see. I guess I think I can get this sorted. I copy this, put that out, and get rid of that. So no questions. That's all right. I will keep going. Let's see. What did I have? Yeah. So this was supposed to return this string. Okay. Now I've got this error where format date isn't defined, so we can pull that out. And now our server code looks pretty good. And our app code looks good with the exception of a function that was missing. This now needs to be async, otherwise that await is not going to work. Let's save that. So do I have any errors that are going to stop this from actually running? I don't think so. I think my code is going to work. Get weather from city, format date. So we are building this thing out and then returning a string of HTML to which it will be returned to this function, which should come as the response. Nope. What do we got? Chunk argument must be type string or instance of buffer. So why did it work before and not now? Is it because my content type needs to be HTML? Let's see here. Reload that. Nope, still not working. Huh. Received an instance of promise. Okay, so that's another thing that we got to deal with. Because our function was just a regular function a moment ago, and now it is an async function. An async function let's do some stuff here. Async, whatever. Async function, whatever. We'll do this and do async function. I'm just going to show it in the in a comment anyway. Is the same as a function. Function, sure, that returns promise of yo. So async function here. These two lines here are equivalent. Where if I create a function that, or if I create an async function that returns the string yo, async is just syntactic sugar over a function that returns a promise. And that promise resolves to yo. So when I execute this string here, when it was not async, I was going to get back a string. And we can actually see that in the type definition, which is pretty handy. So in the type definition here, we have the function response provider that takes a request and returns a string. When I add that async keyword, it changes the function signature such that I have a function called response provider that accepts a request, which can be anything, and it returns a promise that resolves to a string. So now what we need to do here is check the information of that result. And how do I want to do that? We're going to say, instead of result, this is maybe a promise, right? And then we're going to say, if that promise is an instance of a promise, then, well, actually, we can keep that as a result. Result equals that. We're actually going to, we're going to redefine that. Instead of const, we'll make that a let, and we're going to say result equals await result. That's complaining because string is not assignable to type, promise, or string. That's annoying, but we can fix that. I'm not going to fix that. Let that just be an error for now. So if the result is either a function, or if response provider is a function or an async function, we basically get the result no matter what. And then we're going to send the result, and that should be the end of that. So let's go back here. And cool. Our weather forecast looks like it's working. All right, so that is working now. And the interesting thing here is we have an app that now sort of imitates what EdgeWorkers will do. And it's kind of working. Now we need to make our code still look, what is this? Oh, right. I never got around to fixing that. No undefined. So the options, error type of true. I don't want type of. Oh, do I have to pass global this? Type of true. Oh. Must allow the use of undeclared variables unless mentioned in global comments. Rule details. Any reference explicitly mentioned global comment or specified. Okay. Globals. I need to look at that. Okay, easy enough to fix. It looks like the solution is not to do that. That's fine how it was. But in server, we're going to say global this. Fixed. Awesome. What is up, Ben? You are perfectly on time, actually, for the best part of the show, which is where you get to tell me what to do next. You probably don't know what I'm in the middle of. So I'm in the middle of, we've got our app working from yesterday. I did a little bit of a refactor with the how everything was laid out. So instead of having that table with all the stuff kind of horizontal, always chiptune. Oh yeah. What to do next is chiptune. Hell yeah. I'm talking about what to build next, not what kind of music to listen to next. We do need to get back on the chiptune, but I'm like still trying to figure out the best way to incorporate music, because sometimes if I put like, I don't know, if I listen to my own music, the microphone picks it up kind of weird and it's just like not great quality. So I have something that's injecting music into the stream, but I have a very limited number of options. So chiptune's not one of them. But where was I? We did a little bit of refactor. Right. So the app that we're deploying talks to a weather API, and we want to deploy this onto Akamai EdgeWorkers. And the reason is because that way it'll be really close to the user, and we'll have some information about the user location right there on the server. And yeah, just to make it like a faster experience. But Akamai EdgeWorkers, they have kind of a specific syntax for how they get deployed. So, there we go, camera fixed. That's so weird. So the way that they get deployed is you don't actually get to define information about the server. You just define like a file that exports certain function names that are associated with kind of different lifecycle events that happen on the request. So what we had before is going to make a little bit more sense when I get into the code, is we had defined an app, like a Node.js app, and edge functions, edge compute providers, they don't run Node. So you're not going to be able to do just whatever Node thing you can. They don't run the DOM either. They run JavaScript, so you can write JavaScript, but Node and DOM are not specifically like the JavaScript programming language. So with that said, what I'm doing now is creating more of a framework so that I can do local development that behaves the same way as an edge server or an edge worker, so that the business logic that I write works both locally and when I deploy it. And the way we're doing that is effectively we are exporting a function called response provider, and we got that from the official documentation on EdgeWorkers about this response provider thing. So with the response provider, where is it? With the response provider, then we can kind of do like create the HTML that we want to send back and actually send that. And so the way that that's communicating is this, we're having a function called response provider, and whatever it returns, it's an async function, it's going to be a promise. So whatever that promise resolves to, in our server, which is the utility for imitating edge workers locally, we basically check if that worker, if that main.js code has the response provider defined, and if so, we'll grab the results from it, and then we'll just like write that to the node server. So this is imitating what EdgeWorkers would do. I hope that's clear. That's kind of hard to explain if this is totally new to you. But the secret is that we're kind of, I don't know, we're making a fake EdgeWorker that runs locally. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so the other thing that we need to fix here is that EdgeWorkers do not actually have fetch available. So what does that mean? How are we going to make this HTTP request? So EdgeWorkers have this they have some built-in modules, right? So they have this module called HTTP request, and this is how you make sub requests. So when a user client request comes to your API and then that runs your EdgeWorker, if you need to make sub requests from there, like going to the weather API, you need to make a sub request. So we can do that with an HTTP request. So the syntax there looks, where's a good example? Okay, here. You import the HTTP request from HTTP request. And kind of a funny thing is this is not an NPM module. This is like, you can think of it sort of like a node module. So the way you have access to like file system or whatever node APIs, because this is running in Akamai EdgeWorker environment, this is a built-in module that's available in that system. So we're going to import the HTTP request where we need to use it, which is here in our file, right? And then let's see, what else does that look like? The actual response is going to be, yeah, we just like get some JSON or something like that, right? I think the rest pretty much looks like fetch. So yeah, we have a .json. Yeah, so we do the fetch request and then get .json. So this is right now, I think this is fine to just swap out with our fetch. So we've got our HTTP request. We're going to replace fetch with the HTTP request. We don't need to worry about anything else because we're just passing in one parameter, and as far as the one parameter is concerned, it works exactly the same. The one key difference is that this HTTP request, it's not going to know where the heck to pull this from. And once again, because this is not an NPM module, we have to kind of fake this. So I'm going to actually build a new file. I'm going to build a new file at this level called built-ins. And let's see, I'm going to make a new one called HTTP request. And that's going to be index.js, I think. Okay, so here what I'm doing is I'm building a folder for all of my built-ins, and then I'm making one specific for HTTP request. And then the syntax for this, let's see. Well, what do I want to do? What am I trying to do? Oh, right. So because Node, in our local environment, we're running in Node. So we can use whatever is available to us in Node, but we want to make it look like an Akamai EdgeWorker. So to do that, we're actually going to take this logic that's sort of built around fetch, and we can actually take that out. So we don't need fetch here anymore. And then node fetch, we can actually take out as well, and we can provide that here. So now, because we're back in node world, and we're building something that's like a mock of this HTTP request library, we need to export const HTTP request equals. Right now, I think we can actually just like call it fetch. Right. So. Whoop. So HTTP request is literally just going to be a re-implementation of fetch, which I don't think is actually how it works in Akamai EdgeWorkers, because they're slightly different, which is why they're called different things. Well, that's actually going to be confusing. So let's redo that. It's going to be a function that takes a URL and returns fetch URL. Okay, so now we have a completely different function that technically works the same, but is actually something different. Okay, so let's do that. And now here's the cool part. We have this local file here, right? And we want it to, we want our JavaScript code to treat it like an NPM module or like a built-in module. Whoa, that's not what we're doing. So what I'm actually going to do is treat it as such. And I think I can do that by going back to my code, and I can say npm install in dev mode. We're going to go to the /built-ins file, that HTTP one. And I think this should work, or no, it's not, because, right, it's not going to, okay, it's not an NPM, it's not a package. So let's go to built-ins, let's go to HTTP, we're going to npm init -y to just build out it into a module. Then we'll go back to project root. And what that did is in our folder, now we also have this package.json file. So in order to have a local package, it needs to be a package. I don't think I need a version or description. I do want to define the main.js file as that. I don't need scripts, don't need keywords. I don't need that popping up. I don't need keywords, author, or license. I don't need that comma. So I think this is all I need, just a name and the index file. And then what I just did is try to do a second ago should actually work. So if I install that as a dev dependency, now that worked. And if we go back to our project and we look at our packages, we can see this HTTP request is now a file that's at the location of built-ins, like where we installed it from. So is anyone there watching right now? Because this is super cool. And I think this, like, when I learned how to do this the first time, this blew my mind, because now you have like local, look how cool this is. We have a local module, right? In package.json. This is going to say, it, actually that might not even say it anymore if I rerun that. So now it knows where to find that, because now that actually got, when we installed it, that got into our node modules, should be. I guess it's not in there. But the cool thing is, what npm will do is actually build a symlink. So if I make changes to this HTTP request, no, I guess that let's go these back, whatever. But if I make changes here, my node modules, it's going to reflect it there. So it's really nice for local development. So let's see, what do we got? That should be working now. We've got our HTTP request. That's being used in place of fetch, which means if I get this dev server running again and I go back and I rerun it, hopefully, what do we got? HTTP request not found. The requested module is a common module. Oh, that's the problem. Right. One more thing we need to do is go to our package.json, and this actually needs to be type of module. And that's to deal with like common JS versus verse, what's it called? ES modules. So do I need to reinstall it, or is that going to work? It looks like it's working. So if I reload that, look at that. Okay, cool. So it's working. And this information is dynamic. It's definitely coming from that API. Pretty nice that there's no wind today. And that's what I got. That's all the time I got for today, I think. But that's really cool. So what we covered, we didn't make a whole lot of progress. Actually, I'm gonna take this out because we're not using it here at all. And we're gonna go back into our main file, and we're going to input that as well, although we aren't currently using it, but we may in the future. Well, yeah, you know what? Let's use it, right? When the request comes in, where's that city? City is coming from here. Okay, cool. So now basically when this function runs, it generates a random city, it gets the weather for that city, and it builds out the HTML for our project. So this is the current stuff, the current weather information for Vista, which is in California, I think, Southern California. Oh, we have a little error. Invalid value. Okay, so we're trying to format a date that doesn't exist, and that's because we're using the weather that may not exist, and that's because this should not be there. Should only be there if the weather is looking good. Okay, I think we got that little fix in place. So reload that. Friendly fast forecast. City not found. Let's make that a little bit better so that we have our city in there. And this is like just cool. Couldn't find that city. Couldn't find that city. Here's the weather for far, which sounds like it's far away. And yeah, that's pretty cool. So what did we do today? We started refactoring the app to imitate Akamai EdgeWorkers as we develop it locally. Not much change in the layout, but the important thing is that we got this sort of this rewrite so that we're kind of separating the node server local development code from the business logic EdgeWorker code. And in addition to that, we learned a little bit about these built-in modules, which is pretty cool, and how to use the npm system for installing local dependencies. So yeah, I think that is it for today. I will be back tomorrow once again, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard. If you are interested in continuing this, I think we have a little bit more work to do with this local development stuff, because one thing that's missing is using this request object, getting the city off of this request object, which doesn't exist in Node. So we will we'll have to play with that. That'll be fun. All right, let's see. How do I fix this? Cannot find module or its corresponding type declarations. I think I'm just going to ignore that. Maybe I shouldn't. Get that later. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you taking the time. Urchin for you too, and Bendy Myers. Happy to have you around. And yeah, I'll catch you next time. See ya.